I hate to say it, but you make it sound like getting old is not a lot of fun.
No, and here's what I want you to walk away with. You can change how you age by knowing your risk and modifying it.
Good.
So you don't have to just accept the fact that you have high blood pressure. You can do the lifestyle things, take the medications, and really think about, I like to say, changing the trajectory of your train. So it's headed over here. You make some small changes, get on the right medicines, do the right lifestyle things, you change where your train ends up in 20, 30, 40 years.
Great. Thanks for that. That's good news. I'm glad to hear it.
I really do want people, almost like when we turn 40, we start to think about mammograms. We
Yeah.
turn 45, we think about colonoscopies. I want us to start thinking about our cardiovascular prevention when we turn 40. And if you need to see a preventive cardiologist, great. Otherwise, talk to your primary care doctor. But checking blood pressure is one of those key measures where we can, if we find it early, it's very modifiable. And we can think about lifestyle measures to reduce it.
Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marks from GoToHealth. I hope you're having a great day. If you're over 40, I have an important message for you. An estimated 120 million people in the US have high blood pressure, and for many, getting it under control is not as simple as starting a medication or making lifestyle changes. But the fact is that we start getting high blood pressure over the age of 40. Things start stiffening. You'll hear from our guest all the things that can happen in your body and why you should start monitoring your blood pressure, even if you don't think you have high blood pressure, because blood pressure can be a silent killer. There's a new medication approved by the FDA, which is now on the market, which you can discuss with your doctor, and it really helps control blood pressure in new ways. Our guest today is Dr. Payal Kohli. She's an internationally recognized expert in cardiovascular medicine. She's an associate adjunct professor at both Johns Hopkins University and Duke University, and she's the founder and medical director of Cherry Creek Heart in Denver, Colorado. So welcome to the show, Dr. Payal Kohli. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Good. So, it's amazing to me. 120 million Americans have high blood pressure. What are the long-term risks of uncontrolled blood pressure, and why is around-the-clock blood pressure control important?
You're talking about the 120 million Americans who already have high blood pressure, but you may not know that your lifetime risk of developing high blood pressure is 80 to 90%. So
Wow.
it really is one of the most preventable and modifiable risk factors for heart disease. And if you think about it, every organ in your body has a blood vessel, right? And high blood pressure hypertension is that pressure inside those blood vessels being too high, damaging those organs. So when you're talking about long-term risks of hypertension, certainly we're talking about heart risks like heart attacks and cardiovascular events, heart failure, and strokes, but we're also talking about damaging your kidneys, having chronic kidney disease or ending up on dialysis. We're talking about damaging your brain and developing dementia. We're
Mm.
also talking about damaging your eyes, potentially developing blindness. So I really want every American to know their blood pressure, to own their blood pressure so that they can really modify their risk.
What is it about us that makes us so prone to high blood pressure? Is this a US problem, a world problem? Tell us what's going on here.
It is worldwide, but certainly there are things here in the US we do that make it worse. So one of the things that happens, of course, is as we age, our blood vessels get stiffer. Our skin gets wrinkles, our blood vessels get stiffer. So that's a normal phenomena of aging. Certainly our family history or genetics can play a role in who's at risk for developing high blood pressure. But
Mhm.
we know that, the prevalence of obesity here in the United States is nearly 40% in adults, projected to be 50% in the next few years.
Mm.
That's a big driver of risk. 90% of Americans consume too much sodium, right? And we know that eating too much sodium can raise the pressure inside those arteries. Certainly other conditions like sleep apnea can also increase risk. Alcohol use can substantially increase our risk as well as smoking. And then for many women, it happens after menopause. Because what menopause does when that estrogen goes away, it takes away the protective effect of estrogen on the blood vessels. So they tend to become stiffer in a more accelerated fashion. But it also increases production of this hormone called aldosterone, which
Mm.
can raise your blood pressure. And, that's what we're talking about today, maybe one of the key drivers of hypertension.
Wow. I hate to say it, but you make it sound like getting old is not a lot of fun.
No, and here's what I want you to walk away with. You can change how you age by knowing your risk and modifying it.
Good.
So you don't have to just accept the fact that you have high blood pressure. You can do the lifestyle things, take the medications, and really think about, I like to say, changing the trajectory of your train. So it's headed over here. You make some small changes, get on the right medicines, do the right lifestyle things. You change where your train ends up in 20, 30, 40 years.
Great. Thanks for that. That's good news. I'm glad to hear it. So why do some people have high blood pressure even when they're taking medication? What's going on there?
Yeah, so we know that there's many different, as I talked about, pathways to having high blood pressure. Certainly the stiffness of the arteries, how much fluid you have in your tank. So that's where the volume or how much water you're holding on to comes in, how hard they're squeezing, and how your hormones are dysregulated. So these are sort of parallel multiple pathways of risk that can raise your blood pressure. Now, some of the medicines that we use, and you may be surprised to hear me say this, but as a cardiologist, one of my first reaches for a medicine is a medicine that's been around for 68 years for high blood pressure. So we're using a lot of very old medications to treat what we know is a very complicated pathophysiologic process that has multiple different aberrant pathways. And so one of the problems with using older medicines, when they work, and they're great. But in people who are not controlled on those medicines, the medicines actually somehow work against themselves because the increased levels of that hormone aldosterone that I mentioned that can count against you. So sometimes the medicine is just not working. Sometimes, you're having side effects from the medications because some of these older medicines also have side effects. And so you're not necessarily taking them all the time. And sometimes you just need to hit the right pathway because some people just have that aldosterone level being high as a key driver of their high blood pressure.
So I understand you're talking about old medicines. I understand there's a new medication that's just been approved by the FDA. Tell us about that and how it's different.
So this new medication is called Baxfendy. And as a cardiologist, I'm really excited to have something innovative and new in the field of hypertension because, as I alluded to, it's been decades since I've really gotten a lot of new medications that I can use in my patients. So Baxfendy is a medicine that targets the production of aldosterone, which we think may be that missing link for patients who are taking the meds, doing the lifestyle stuff, exercising, sleeping, doing all the right things, and their blood pressure is still not controlled. And of all the people walking around out there with high blood pressure, nearly half of them fall into this category of uncontrolled hypertension, where they're doing all the right things and they're still at risk because their blood pressure targets aren't at goal. So this medicine targets the production of this hormone aldosterone, which is different from what older medicines used to do, which used to let the hormone get made and then try to prevent it from acting on the receptor. So here we're actually being a little smarter. We're going upstream. And because of the way that it works, it actually has less of those hormonal side effects compared to many of the other medications that are out there.
Oh, that's great. Let me give people the website so they can go learn more about this. It's Baxfendy, and let me spell that. It's a little bit tricky. It's BAX F as in Frank, Baxfendy, Baxfendy.com. Did I get that right?
You got it perfect, yeah. And the
Good.
medicine is called Baxdrostat, but Baxfendy is the brand name for it. It's really for those people who are struggling despite being on those, multiple blood pressure medications.
Good. So let's talk about the importance of seeing your doctor and getting your blood pressure checked or even checking it at home. Let's underline that, please.
Let's underline it and bold it and make it orange and just make it stand out because I cannot, as a preventive cardiologist, emphasize the importance of this enough. Know your numbers and know your risk. And it's not that one day you go into the doctor's office once a year to get your annual physical exam. It's really, as you pointed out, Jonathan, a longitudinal assessment of your blood pressure. So I say for most people who have high blood pressure, they need to check it at least 2 or 3 times a week to make sure they're staying at their goal. And for people who don't have high blood pressure, at least once a week at home, you want to check it. And there's a science to how you check it. You want to sit quietly for 1 minute, uncross your legs, sit at the dining table, support your arm on the table, and don't use those wrist cuffs, use the arm cuffs, and just make sure that you're, checking it in the proper manner so that you have good data that you can share with your doctor. And if it's greater than 120, not 130, 120, you're considered to have elevated blood pressure.
He said don't use a wrist cuff. What's the difference between a wrist and an arm cuff?
Well, generally, because of the shape of our arms and such, we find that arm cuffs tend to be more accurate. And there is a website that the American Heart Association has promoted. It's called validatebp.org. where you can see which of the cuffs out there are sort of recommended, because all cuffs are not created equal. It's also important to make sure you get the right size of the cuff. So if it's too small, then it's going to overestimate your blood pressure. If it's too big, it's going to underestimate it. So I like to say the overhang, kind of the flap of the cuff, should be about as much as your fingers.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be too tight and it shouldn't be too big.
Good. Now, you said an important thing before that I want to come back to. You said for those of us who don't have high blood pressure, we should be measuring our blood pressure. Tell us about that. Does blood pressure, you mentioned it before, it kind of sneaks up on us with age. So it's really important to be measuring your blood pressure, even if you don't have high blood pressure. Is that what you're telling us?
So important. And it's called the silent killer for a reason, because a lot of people, especially early in the course of the disease, until it gets super high, don't have any symptoms from it. So they could be walking around with elevated blood pressures and not even realizing it. So like having a blindfold on, right? You don't know something, you don't check. And we the longer the blood pressure is elevated, the worse it gets. And so in my mind, there's really an urgency to treat this blood pressure, because when you start sitting with elevated blood pressure for long periods of time, you're actually creating damage inside the blood vessels that causes them to stiffen, causes them to scar, causes deposition of cholesterol deposits, causes inflammatory reactions inside the blood vessels, not to mention all the things I mentioned to you about the organs. So I really do want people, almost like when we turn 40, we start to think about mammograms. We turn 45, we think about colonoscopies. I want us to start thinking about our cardiovascular prevention when we turn 40. And if you need to see a preventive cardiologist, great. Otherwise, talk to your primary care doctor. But checking blood pressure is one of those key measures where we can, if we find it early, it's very modifiable, and we can think about lifestyle measures to reduce it.
Good. Boy, this is such important information. And I really didn't realize how pervasive this issue is, and really as you age, that you need to be monitoring what's happening with your blood pressure. Good.
You're absolutely right.
Good. So, doctor, are there any questions I didn't ask that I should have, or what kind of big message, and I think I know what it is, but what kind of big message would you like to leave with people today?
I'm going to leave you with this statistic that will hopefully empower and motivate you. According to the American Heart Association, 80% of heart attacks and strokes preventable with risk factor management. Of course, that includes blood pressure, blood cholesterol, blood sugar, weight, what have you. So we know that heart disease is the most common thing that's going to happen to any of us, but we don't have to accept that. We can actually change our path if we screen for risk factors and control them aggressively.
Good. I love that empowerment message. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Good. We've been talking with Dr. Payal Kohli. She's an internationally recognized expert, as you can tell, in cardiovascular medicine. She's an associate adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins University and Duke University, and she's also the founder and medical director of Cherry Creek Heart in Denver, Colorado. She's also, as you can tell, an on-screen television medical personality with over 3,000 television appearances, and she's got her own YouTube channel, so you can check her out there. It's Dr. Payal Kohli, recognized cardiovascular medicine. Thanks so much for being with us, doctor. It's been really helpful information.
Thank you.
This has been Jonathan Marks with GoToHealth. Remember, you can subscribe to us at gotohealthmedia.com or on YouTube or Spotify. We've got over 300 evidence-based interviews with health experts. And if you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. That helps us get the word out to more people. Thanks again, doctor, for being with us. This has been Jonathan Marks with GoToHealth. And as we say at the end of every show, go to health. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marks in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at gotohealthmedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with Go to Health.